All right, let's get into it. You've got two of the absolute hottest careers in tech right now, data analyst and data engineer. But which one really has the higher ceiling when it comes to salary? A debate that popped up online about this very thing actually tells a really fascinating story about skills, roles, and, the future of data itself.
So it all kicked off with a simple but pretty high-stakes question about money. In a forum that was just packed with data pros, one user threw out a number that got everybody's attention: $300,000. And this is the core question, right? It's what anyone even thinking about a career in data is asking themselves. When you really look at the long-term potential, which path is going to lead to that bigger paycheck? Is it the analyst or is it the engineer? And here it is. This is the claim that lit the fuse. This one sentence from a Reddit user basically set the stage for this entire explainer. The idea is that a data analyst tops out around $200K, while a data engineer, well, they can clear $300K. But is that really how it works? Well, not so fast. Almost right away, another user jumped in and said, "Whoa, this is like comparing apples to oranges." And why is that? Because these jobs have fundamentally different expectations. To even begin to understand the salary difference, you have to understand the job difference first. And before we can really compare these two roles, we have to talk about the one skill that is the absolute foundation for both of them. It's the common language of the entire data world, SQL. So for anyone new to this, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. The easiest way to think about it is as the universal tool for talking to databases. It's how you ask for data, it's how you change data, it's how you organize it. It is, and I mean this, a totally non-negotiable skill. And when I say it's everywhere, I mean it's everywhere. SQL is the backbone for managing data, for making reports, for driving huge business decisions. In fact, some salary data even suggests that knowing SQL can be more valuable on the job market than other big statistical languages like R. And if you want to see just how valuable it is, check this out. This is a real-world proposal from Covered California. They were looking for contractors for a project with a budget up to, wait for it, $1 million a year. And for what? For accounting and SQL support services. That's just how critical this one skill is out there. Okay, so with that SQL foundation firmly in our minds, let's finally break down the two roles at the heart of our question: the analyst versus the engineer. You know, what's really great about this slide is how it frames the core difference. The data analyst, they live closer to the business side of the company. Their job is to use data to answer big strategic questions. The data engineer, on the other hand, is closer to IT. They're the ones building the infrastructure, the actual data pipelines that bring the data in to begin with. So a day in the life of an analyst is all about interpretation. They're digging through data, looking for trends, and building these beautiful visualizations in tools like Tableau or Power BI. It's really about telling a story with data. It takes a ton of business savvy, and like one user pointed out, it can be a great launchpad into other big roles like product management. Now, the data engineer's day is a whole different world. They are the architects. They're designing, building, and maintaining the systems that collect and move all that data. It's basically a type of software engineering, and it often means deeper technical skills, and even being on call. As one person put it so well, they're the indispensable first step. Without them, the analysts have literally nothing to analyze. And this big difference is where the debate got a little spicy. One side argued that because engineering is more technical, a data engineer could probably do an analyst's job pretty easily, but an analyst could not do an engineer's. It kind of suggests a clear food chain of skills. But whoa, hold on. There was some immediate and really strong pushback to that idea. This user, and a bunch of others, basically said that's a massive oversimplification. Being a great analyst takes this unique blend of business knowledge and perspective. One person called it a half product manager mindset that a lot of pure engineers just don't have. They are truly different skill sets. So as the data world gets more and more complex, you know what happens? The lines between these jobs start to get blurry. And that has given rise to this new hybrid role that sits right in the middle of this whole debate. Say hello to the analytics engineer. This is a super important emerging role. You can think of them as the essential glue in a modern data team. They take the raw, messy data that the data engineers provide, and they transform it. They clean it, they model it, they structure it so it's perfectly reliable and ready for the data analysts to work their magic. And I just love this quote from an analytics engineer on Reddit because it perfectly captures what they do. They said they're in this sweet spot. not as technical as a DE and not as deep in business strategy as a DA, but with just enough of both to do that crucial job of transforming raw data into something useful. They're the translators. Which brings us all the way back to our original question, the money. Now that we get the landscape of all these different roles, let's see how it all cashes out in terms of compensation.
Okay, let's really look at this, because what the job market is asking for tells a really interesting story. This is data from San Francisco. First, just look at the sheer number of jobs asking for SQL, over 5,000. It completely dwarfs the others, which just hammers home how fundamental it is. But then, notice Python has a higher starting salary, even though the demand isn't quite as broad. It's a classic picture of supply and demand.
So, what about that big number, the one that started this whole conversation? Well, it turns out the original claim was pretty much on the money. Total compensation for a senior or staff-level data engineer at one of the big tech companies can absolutely go past $300,000. It's not the norm everywhere for sure, but it is very achievable at the top of the market. But the story definitely doesn't end there. A lone data engineer might have a higher salary ceiling, but data analysts have their own paths to gig money, especially through leadership roles, like becoming a manager or a director. And as a ton of people pointed out, other things matter just as much. Getting certifications can give you a nice boost, and honestly, the company you work for can affect your pay way more than your specific job title.
So finally, where is all of this going? These roles aren't set in stone, and there is a massive technological shift happening right now that could completely reshape the entire field.
One user brought up the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. There's a real concern that as AI gets smarter and smarter, it could just automate a lot of the routine stuff that data analysts do now, like running standard reports or finding basic trends in the data. And that leaves us with a really provocative final question. As AI starts taking over the more routine tasks, the jobs themselves are going to change. The data engineer's role could become even more vital. They won't just be building pipes, they'll be building these incredibly sophisticated AI-ready data foundations that companies can actually trust. And the data analyst's role? It might shift from just finding answers to asking much, much better questions. They'll become the strategic guides who tell the AI what business problems are worth solving. So the question isn't just about salary anymore, it's about value. In a world powered by AI, what's more valuable, building the engine or steering the ship? That is the new $300,000 question.